Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Buying a Home in Groningen webinar. I want to thank you, all of you, for joining us today. I hope you had a great end of the year, and hopefully we can bring you some insights today so you can move forward and buy your own home in Groningen this year. I wanted to share with you that today's session will be recorded and shared with you afterwards. So if you need to leave earlier for some reason, don't worry, because you're gonna receive the presentation later. So I am Rafaela. I am a buying manager at EHN for more than a year now. I am responsible for Groningen area and also all the north of the Netherlands. I am Brazilian. I was born and raised in Brazil. I left Brazil in 2008 though, and since then I have lived in Austria, England, and the Netherlands. In Groningen itself, I have lived for 10 years now, so I know the region quite well. I am a proud mom of two very beautiful and smart girls. And I bought my own house here in Groningen 5 years ago. I sold it and I bought a new one. So I know what you're going through. I know from experience and I can help you with that. I have a little poll here. I would like to get to know you a little bit better. So if you can reply the poll, just let me launch it here. So if you can answer us, where did you find us? Where did you find this webinar? That would be very helpful for our marketing team to understand. Let me give you a few seconds. So I see some from the website, some from Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Let me see, a friend or a colleague. Okay, thank you. And what made you decide to buy? Build some equity, the rents are too high. That totally makes sense. Thank you for answering it. Let's move forward with the presentation. So here we have our content for today. We have a little introduction. We are going to share with you some market info, some market drivers as well. We are going to share with you what you need from savings for the whole process. That's really important. 3 tips to win in the current market. And also we'll go through the whole timeline together. Here we say that greatness is achieved in the agents of others. And what we mean by that is that we believe that we can deliver great work working as a team. And for that, I'm going to introduce you our buying team. We have here Giovanna. Giovanna, she's also Brazilian. She sits in Eindhoven and she's a specialist in that area. We also have Ellen. She is Dutch. She supports us with the research to review all the documents, also booking the experts for us. She's sitting in Amsterdam. She also lived abroad for a while, so she has been an expat herself as well. We also have Rick. Rick is sitting in Rotterdam and he's looking for that area. He is also Dutch. He also had the experience to live abroad himself. So we basically all have been expats ourselves. So we know what you're going through at the moment. And I left Ludo for the last because he's joining us here today. And I would like to ask him to introduce himself. Ludo, please.
Of course. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ludo. As you see on the sheet, I am a buying manager in the Amsterdam area. Greater Amsterdam areas, also places like Almere, Zaandam, Amstelveen, Haarlem, and such. Been with EHN for over 2 years now. And well, the reason why I'm here in the webinar is to assist with the Q&A. So if you guys have any questions during the webinar, feel free to pop it in the Q&A. I'll be able to answer it live while Rafaela keeps going on with the presentation. And then if we have any questions at the end of the presentations, we'll go over them live with everyone actually. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Ludo. So let's move forward with the presentation. A little brief introduction to EHN. We are no traditional real estate agents, and what we mean by that is that we help with buying and renting. We don't help with selling yet. We charge a fixed fee. We don't charge commission, so that's different from the other real estate agents. We'll go through our fees later in this presentation as well. We know what it's like to settle in a new country because we all have been there and we know what you're going through. So what is our added value? The selling agents take offers from our company more seriously, and the reason for that is because we are in the market for more than 7 years now. We have a great network, and they know that we did our homework, and they know that they can take our offer seriously because we know that the process can go through. We can sometimes book viewings when it's no longer possible, and again, because of our network. And also sometimes some selling agents, they save some spots for people that are buying property with other agents. And we can, when you no longer can book a viewing, if we try ourselves, we can do that for you. We support by reviewing Dutch legal and property documents. As I mentioned before, we have some Dutch speakers in the company, and they always review all the documents that we receive from the selling agents to check if there is any red flag or anything you should be aware of. We check all the documents we receive, and we're going to review that together with you as well. We help define market value through market data. I'm going to explain to you a little bit better later how that's important. And we will inform you about rules and regulations that apply in the Netherlands on your specific case as well. Of course, we make sure you don't make the same let me rephrase it. We make sure we don't make the same mistakes we have made in the past. I have another poll here. If you can reply, where in the process are you? Let me launch it here. If you can let us know if you are on the researching stage, if you already viewed some properties, if you made an offer already, if you had an offer accepted. Researching. Yeah, everyone is researching, so that's a good moment to join the webinar indeed. Did you chat with an agent? Most of you didn't. Very good. And did you chat with a mortgage broker? Some of you yes, and some of you no. I would advise you to do so, and I can explain a little bit better later. Thank you for answering it. Here we have some market info that I would like to share with you. That's very good to understand how the market works or worked in the past. We have some numbers from the development in the average selling price in the Netherlands since 2005. And you can see from this graph that the prices has increased quite significantly since then. We only had a drop between 2008 and 2013, and that's because of the prices that we had during this time. But if you see the past few years from 2016 until 2022, the prices increased quite a lot. So if you see the average price from 2021 in the Netherlands, it was 386,000 euros. And if you compare with the third quarter of 2022, that amount increased to 425,000 euros. So it is a big increase, even though we are all aware that the market slowed down a little bit in the end of the last year, but the prices still increased if compared with the previous year. We can see that the prices for the new builds are higher, and the average for the third quarter was 496,000 euros. Here we have some market figures from Groningen. That's very interesting to see as well. It is information from the third quarter as well. So we had 931 houses sold. We had 596 houses for sale at that time. The average purchase price is 348,000 euros. It is 11.4% more if it is compared with the last year. If you check also the average price per square meter is 3,308. It's also 12.1% more if compared with the previous year as well. On the sales time, we have around 22 days. And what you can see from that is that the market is quite fast and we need to act fast as well in order to make sure you have the property. Here we have some market drivers. What causes the prices to increase? We have the fiscal benefits, and in the fiscal benefits, we have the tax exemption. What's the tax exemption? The tax exemptions apply if you are under 35 years old and you buy a property up to 440,000 euros. You don't need to pay transfer tax. If you're older than 35 or buy a property above that amount, then you need to pay 2% of transfer tax. We also have the interest rebate, and what does it mean? It means that the interest paid is tax deductible, so you're going to receive some money back in the future. There is no capital gains, so if you buy a property now, sell it later to buy a new property, you don't need to pay taxes on these gains as well. And you also have the tax-free parent donation that's coming to an end. So if this year you receive a donation of around 29,000 euros, you don't need to pay taxes on it. But next year, this benefit will come to an end. We also have the low interest rates, even though the interest rates have increased in the past year. In the beginning of the year, they were quite low and they increased significantly during the year. It reached the amount at between 3 to 5% now, but it is still quite low. If you compare with other countries, or if you compare even with the Netherlands a few years ago, the interest rates are quite low. So it makes the people to want to buy property to make use of it. We also have the high rents. Most of the people prefer, as you mentioned before in the poll, to pay for your own mortgage than if you pay for the mortgage of someone else on the rentals. And I think this one is the one that plays the role the most, is the lack of supply. In the Netherlands, we still are short of around 300,000 properties. So we don't have enough properties to supply the demand. So I think this one is the one that plays the role the most on making the prices to increase yet. Here we have some rules and regulations that apply. That's very important for you to know. We have a self-occupancy obligation. It started in the Netherlands last year. So for Groningen, if you buy a property with a WOZ value up to 305,500 euros, you're not able to rent it out. So if your intention is to rent a property in the future, it's very important for you to take a look at this regulation. There are some exemptions though. For example, if you buy a property and you want to rent it for a family member or either your parents or your children, then you can do so. Otherwise, you need to live in the property for at least 4 years before you rent it out. So it's very important for you to take a look if your intention is to rent the property in the future. We also have another regulation that started to apply last year. That's mandatory to have smoke detectors. If you own a property, you need to have the smoke detectors in every level of the property, otherwise you be liable to have some penalty if you don't do so. And we also have here the rising of interest rates. As we explained before, the interest rates have increased quite a lot in the last year. And what happens is that it makes a pressure on the market to make the prices to not increase that fast or even to drop a little bit. So it's something very interesting to understand how it's happening. Here we'll go through what you would need from savings for the whole process. So here we have everything in detail. We call them closing fees. It is important for you to know that you can borrow from the bank up to 100% of the market value. Everything else you need to pay from savings. So for the closing fees, you cannot borrow from the bank. You need to have from your own savings to cover it. So a basic way to calculate it, if you need to pay the transfer tax, you can consider that you would need around 5% of the purchase price to cover these fees. If you don't need to pay the transfer tax, then you can consider that you would need around 3% of the purchase price to cover all these fees. So what is included in these closing fees? It is the transfer tax. So if you are older than 35 or buy a property more than 440,000 euros, then you need to pay 2% of transfer tax. You also are going to need to pay for the notary. The notary will provide you with the mortgage and the transfer deed. For that, you can count around between 600 and 1,100 euros each. It is important for you to know as well that everything that's mortgage related is tax deductible, so you're going to receive some money back in the future as well. You're going to need to pay for the bank or your mortgage broker, and that's going to cost you between 1,500 and 3,400 euros. This is also tax deductible. If you work with a typical real estate agent, you can count around 1 to 2% of the purchase price. And we as EHN, we charge a fixed fee, and I'm going to show you in the end of this presentation as well. If you're having a mortgage, you need to have an appraiser going to the property, and for that, they're going to charge you between 650 and 900 euros. This one is also tax deductible. You can also have a technical inspector going to the property. That's going to cost you around 440 euros. Since you're not a Dutch speaker, you need to have an interpreter going to the notary to join you there. And that's going to cost you around 300, 350 euros as well. In one stage of the process, you're going to need to provide the seller with a bank guarantee or a deposit. So if you choose to provide a bank guarantee, you need to pay the bank around 250 euros for that. And the last one is the NHG. So it is the National Mortgage Guarantee. And what does it mean? This National Mortgage Guarantee, you're entitled to make use of it if you buy a property up to 405,000 euros. And you basically will have a better interest rate if you make use of it. And also you're going to have an extra insurance. So if for some reason you cannot pay your mortgage anymore, you're going to have this insurance that's going to cover it for you. So if you're entitled to use so, we always advise you to do so because it is quite a good benefit for yourself. And for this one, you have to pay 0.6% of the mortgage amount, and it is also tax deductible. Just one moment. Here we have 3 tips to win in the current market. Value, value, value. I'm going to explain this with an example. We have this property for sale and the asking price is 395,000 euros. So this is the asking price. But what we do, we always have to find the market value because this is the amount that's really important. You can borrow up to 100% of this amount, the market value, not the asking price, not the purchase price, but the market value. So always before we send an offer, we check the market value to make sure that we pay a fair price for the property. So this property was for sale for 395,000 euros, but the market value is 415,000. If you see the purchase price is 435,000 euros. When you compare the asking price with the purchase price, you're going to think you overbid 10% more, but when in reality, what you have to check is the difference between the market value and the purchase price, because that's the amount that's really important. So you overbid in this case only 4.8%, not 10%. If you see, it's the same property, but for some reason, the selling agent decided to put the asking price lower. So the amount is 375,000 euros. The market value is still the same because it is the same property. And the purchase price is also the same because it is the same property. So in this case, if you compare the asking price with the purchase price, you're going to think you overbid 16%. When in reality, you only overbid 4.8% of that amount. It is important for you to know because we see, as this example, it was kind of a norm in the past month, but now we can see that the market is changing a little bit. So that's why it is very important to find the market value before, because now sometimes instead of we see the asking price lower than the market value, we also see it higher. So it is really important to check the market value so you make sure you don't pay more than you should for that property. So we're going to help you with that as well. Here we have a winning offer, how a winning offer looks like. So offer a good price, not always the highest price. And what do you mean by that? Is I'm just gonna come back on this example. So if you offer for a property 435,000 euros, but you put as a financial clause that you need to borrow 100% of that amount, the sellers, they know that the market value of this property 415,000. So they know you're not gonna be able to borrow 435,000. So they're going to choose for probably a lower offer, but with the finances that make sense. So that's what we mean, that not always the highest price is a good price. Always offer security to the seller. So if you're working with a mortgage advisor, for example, you can always ask them to provide you with a letter stating that you would be able to borrow the amount necessary, and you can provide that to the seller so they will be secure that you would be able to borrow the amount needed. Offer the least amount of hassle. What do we mean by that? Always try to make it work to, how can I say, to supply the demands from the seller, for example. So if the seller wants to transfer the property within 5 months, but you would prefer to transfer in 3 months, for example, try to be flexible to reach that demand from the seller. That would increase your chances to have your offer accepted. Another example that we always see is sometimes the seller, they want to leave some furniture behind. So even though you're not interested in that furniture, you can always try to make it work. So you can, okay, take the furniture and then sell it later, so you can make things easier for the seller. And of course, offer a personal touch. That's very important as well. Sometimes the seller, they are quite, have some emotional attachment to the property, and they want to make sure that this property is going to be taken care of as they did in the past. So it's always nice to write a letter for them explaining who you are, why did you like the property. So that's always nice to provide the seller with that as well. So here we have the due diligence. Here we have the two experts that go to the property. First one is the technical inspector. The technical inspector goes to the property to check the conditions of the property. So what they do, they provide you with a report, and on that report, they will give you, explain to you all the work that needs to be done in the property and how much that will cost you. They divide the report with the work that needs to be done within a year, between 3 to 5 years and later on. So it's always good to have a forecast, what you're gonna need to invest in the property before you buy it. So it's always good to know that as well. And we also have the appraiser. The appraiser is the expert that needs to go to the property if you're having a mortgage. What they do, they go to the property to provide you with a valuation report. And on that report, you're going to have the official market value of the property, and you need to give that to your mortgage provider. So I have one question for you now. You can pop in the chat. What do you think? When do you book them? Before or after your offer is accepted? Do you have any idea? You can answer in the chat, please. Before. Thank you for answering it. Let's give you a few more seconds. Before. Okay, let's move forward with the answer. So the sweet spot is right after your offer is accepted. And the main reason for that is because they cost you money. So sometimes you go to one viewing, you're going to send the offer. You don't know if your offer is going to be accepted or not. Hopefully you have the first offer accepted, but sometimes you need to visit 2, 3, 4 properties before you have your offer accepted. So if you have these experts going to these 4 properties, you have to pay the 4 times they go there. So it's gonna be quite expensive. So what we do, we book them right after your offer is accepted. So we have their report before either you sign the purchase contract or before the end of cooling off period. So in this way, if something comes up more than, like if you need to spend more money than you expected, you still can pull out of the deal without any penalty if we have the report done within this time. So we book them right after your offer is accepted. So here we have the timeline. So we start with the search, of course. We always advise you to use Funda. Probably you know Funda already. There you can find more than 95% of the properties that are for sale are in that website. So you can start looking there. After you do the search, you have the viewing. What we do all the research. We review the documents that we receive from the selling agent. We do also the price research, and we discuss that together with you. After that, we submit the offer for you. After the offer is approved, we book the appraiser and the technical inspector, as mentioned before. And then around 10 days after your offer is accepted, you're going to sign the purchase contract. We will review that for you and also explain everything for you as well. After signing the purchase contract, you can start the mortgage application. And here we have a cooling off period of 3 days. And what does that mean? Is that if you pull out of the deal within this time, you don't need to pay any penalty. If you pull out of the deal or decide to cancel it after this 3 days cooling off period, then you need to pay a penalty. So you have during this whole time to think about it, and if you need to pull out, that's the time. We have an average of 4 weeks for your mortgage to be approved. After your mortgage is approved, around 10 days before the transfer, you're going to receive the statement of completion. This is basically the final invoice you're going to receive from the notary with all the closing fees that needs to be paid before the transfer. On the day of the transfer, you're going to have the last inspection done at the property. So you go to the property to check if it is in the same condition as it was when you first view it. After the last inspection, you go right after to the notary to sign the transfer and the mortgage deed. And you also have the key handover done all in the same day. And we have here an end of liability term of 2 months. But of course, as soon as you get in the property, check if everything is working properly, if there is no damage that you were not aware of. If you find out something is wrong, the sooner you find out, the easier it is to claim liability from the seller. So here we have the packages that we offer. We have the new build package. This process is totally different from what I explained today. So if you're interested in buying a new build, I would advise you to either watch one of our webinars, or also you can book an intake with one of us. Then we can explain to you in details how this process works. And for existing properties, we have 2 different packages. We have the Smart and the Complete package. So for the Smart package, what's included? You have one buying manager. So we have contact to one person. But of course, as I explained before, we work as a team, but you have one person of contact. We are going to do the property review. We are going to do the price research for you. We are going to submit the offer and also do the negotiation with the selling part. We do the contract review. We book the third parties for you and also do the pre-transfer support. The Smart package, it's guidance that we're going to give to you, and it's going to be online guidance. And that's the main difference between the Smart and the Complete package. So the Complete package, we're going to be physically there with you. So we're going to schedule the viewings and attend the viewings together with you as well. Attend the inspectors and the notary as well. So you can take a look in the packages that we offer. You can see later in the email that we're going to send it to you, or you can also see in our website. So that's it for the presentation. Let's go through the questions if there is any questions left.
No questions left actually. So if you guys do have anything that you think, hey, that's unanswered, please pop it in the Q&A now. Otherwise, forever hold your peace. Or if anything pops up after this webinar or tomorrow, then you can always reach out to us. That is totally fine. I'll give it another 30 seconds or so to see if anything pops up. And otherwise, I think we can wrap it up.
I think Afshin has a question.
There we go. Yeah, we have some questions coming in. So first of all, a question from Umut. Is there any rule when using your savings?
There is no rules. Actually, what happens is that you need to prove where these savings are coming from. So the notary is going to ask for either bank statements to prove where these savings are coming from. I don't know if I understood the question correctly, but if not, can you please explain a little bit better, Umut?
Yeah, I think what you said is correct. There aren't any rules when using your savings. You can use as much as you want. If you want to pay the property completely out of savings, if you have the money, fantastic. That is more than allowed. Just as Rafaela mentioned, you do have to prove to the notary that the money is clean, so to say, so that it's not from fraudulent activities or anything like that. I have a question from Pasi. Which changes inside the building require construction permits? Do you know that?
Generally, if you make big changes on the structure side, then you would need permission. Also, if you're gonna need to extend the property, even though it's in the backyard, if it is bigger than, I think it's 1 meter, 9 meters, square meters, Ludo, can you help me?
Yeah, well, I think how they typically measure it is an additional 4 meters from the facade, the regular facade. You can build out 4 meters. But if you want to change the exterior of the property, 9 out of 10 times you'll have to get a permit with the municipality. So it's always good to double check with your specific municipality, but yeah, it will be the case. Okay, question from Jake. Can you tell us the best website to search properties at?
Yeah, for searching existing properties, I would advise Funda. Funda is the place where you can find most of the properties for sale. But if you see some properties from any specific broker, you can always register on their own website so you can see it before it comes up on Funda. But it doesn't make a big difference. Generally, they post 1 day before, and then in the next day, it is on Funda already. So I always say Funda.
Yeah, Funda is for sure, especially for buying, the best website to use. Okay, and then I have another question. Is the market value actually the same as the WOZ value?
No, it's not. They are different. The WOZ value is the value that your property is registered in the municipality, and the market value is the market value. Generally, the market value is higher than the WOZ as well.
Yeah. So good to keep in mind also is that the WOZ value is always based on old data. So for example, today we're living in 2023, of course, the beginning of 2023, but still, the current WOZ value of the properties is actually from the 1st of January of 2021. So that's a long time ago. And then you can imagine the data that they used was actually from 2020. So yeah, that's almost 3 years ago. So it's not a good representation of what the current market value is. So the market value is really the amount that the bank will give you. And that's why we need an appraiser to come in, and we as buying agents help you determine that amount. It's important to know, of course. I have another question from Afshin. Here she says, as I learned, buying a second house has a different transfer tax. Now, what happens if I'm buying a property with my partner and my partner has a home in another EU country? Is there then also a difference in transfer tax?
So yes, if you're buying a second house in the Netherlands, then you have to pay a different transfer tax. But if you and your partner are buying your first home and you're gonna live in the property, then you need to pay 2% of the transfer tax. But you need to be registered in this property.
Yeah, and good to know is that it's only seen transfer tax from the amount of properties you have in the Netherlands. So if you have a second home in Italy, for example, or well, anywhere else for that matter, that doesn't matter. It has to be your first residential property in the Netherlands. If you're going to be buying a second property in the Netherlands and you already have one in the Netherlands, then they see it as an investment, and therefore you will have to pay the transfer tax of 10.4%. Okay, cool. That's it. That's all the questions that we have for today. Thanks very much, Rafaela.
Thank you, Ludo, for your assistance. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Here we have our website, so if you have any questions left or if you want to discuss your specific case, please book an intake with one of us. We would be very happy to help you out.
For sure, definitely. Well, thanks very much, Rafaela, for hosting. And
thank you, Ludo. And then hope to see you soon, guys.
Sure thing.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.